Hi, I'm Lindsay, host of the Live Like Eden podcast. What do you do when your whole life flips upside down? Are you questioning everything, lost in chaos, or yearning for life's deeper meaning? I've been there, deep in the thick of it, unraveling my own awakening mess for over 20 years. Now I'm here to help you through yours. I share no-nonsense weekly wake-ups, cutting through the ego's illusions to wake you up to your own spiritual wisdom. No mountaintop bliss needed here, just practical tools, insights, and real-life experience to save you time. Plus, a much-needed laugh when we're all losing it. Let's dive into this fresh new episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. I was recently visiting Manitou Springs, Colorado. I live in Colorado. I'm not too far from Colorado Springs. And at the base of Pikes Peak Mountain, which is a massive peak here in this state, over 14,000 feet high, there's this darling little town called Manitou, and it's known for its mineral springs. It has a fresh water source there that has been there forever. And within the town, there are faucets that you can walk up to that they run 24/7, just nonstop, and you can fill up your water with the natural mineral water that's available. I'm not sure if any of you that are listening have ever filled your water bottle with fresh mineral springs, but what does it taste like? It's a very strong flavor, and it tastes kind of like sparkling water. For those of you that like sparkling water, it's very strong. If you're not used to it, some people immediately have this weird look on their face and they don't like it. But I'm a lover of sparkling water, so I love it. Funny story, last summer I was down there, and it's a very tourist town. There's a lot of people from all over the place there. And I was walking up to fill my water bottle with this water that's coming out, and it looks kind of old, ancient, fountain-looking thing. And this guy that's standing there, he says, "No, ma'am, you don't want to drink that water." And I was like, "Oh, sir, you may not be from here, but you can actually drink this water. It's free. It's known for its healing properties." They used to have sanitariums in the town that were specifically for healing. People came from all over the world to heal. So this is the focus of today's show. The old sanitariums of the past, where people used to come from all over the world to visit these places, and they were spread throughout the world for healing. This was the natural way, and really the only way that we knew to become well. Any of you that are listening that are interested in natural health, let's get into this today and talk about how we can revive sanitariums by building your own health oasis. Visiting a retreat or a wellness center or a spa or anything like that today is always amazing, right? When you go there, if you've ever been to any kind of place like this, you always just feel amazing, right? It's almost like 500 loads of energy that you're carrying around with you, and all your little travel bags just left, and you feel lighter and energized, and you feel revitalized. It's amazing. So I want to talk today about how we can do that in our own life. But before we get to that main essence of the show, let's talk about a few things. One being the sanitariums that were here. Let's talk a little bit about them, what they were based on, where they were, and then let's look at the ancient Greeks. Just for a second, is this concept of natural health new? And then we'll dive into why this concept of natural healing and holistic health changed. What happened? We'll get into that. And then lastly, I want to leave you with how you can create your own health oasis for yourself, wherever you're living, how you can do it, what are the steps you can take to dive in and make this a lifestyle. It's not something you just do for a week when you visit the wellness center or the spa, or it's a healing center, whatever it is. How do you take what you know and live it all the time? But first, let's talk about these sanitariums. So what sparked the show today is when I was on my trip to Manitou, I walked into an old bank. It was like a really old bank that they turned into this cute little store. And as I walked into the entrance of it on the right, there was a framed picture from 1900 that said Montcalm Sanitarium. And I thought, oh, they used to have a healing center here. That makes sense. There's the natural mineral water coming through town. They were using it as part of healing. the more I got into it, I went and talked to the lady in the store and I asked her specifically about the sanitarium. She said, oh, yeah, you can take tours. It's up at this place called Miramont Castle, and they give tours and describe the whole thing. Well, I didn't have time to take a tour, but I did do a little bit of research. And what's really fascinating to me is people came from all over the world to help heal their tuberculosis. So in Manitou Springs and in Colorado Springs, there were many sanitariums that were devoted to helping people with tuberculosis, help them get well. Well, what did they do to help them get well, and why would they come here? Where we're living, it's above 6,000 feet. High altitude has what? Fresh air. It's really fresh air, which is helpful for people to not breathe that stagnant, moist air. And the healing mineral water is there to help facilitate the healing. And then they implemented what? Fresh fruits and vegetables into the diet. Got out in the sun, got out in nature, stayed in these little huts that were open-aired huts. And it seemed very simple, but people came from all over to begin the healing process. Now, for any of you listening that are into natural healing, this doesn't sound that complicated, right? It's like, oh, wow, they used to do this? They were doing this in the late 1800s and 1900? Why do we not see that today? And not only did they have facilities here in this region, but it went all along the Front Range of Colorado. Boulder, Colorado also had sanitariums, which was called the Boulder Sanitarium. I believe that Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, who is a big pioneer in the natural health movement, helped start that one, as well as other sanitariums throughout the country in Michigan. I'm not going to get into Kellogg too much. You can certainly do your research, but he was a big advocate for fresh fruits and vegetables in the diet, for hydrotherapy. And as you may recognize his name, Kellogg, he also started cornflakes, so he's a believer in grains. But there was a lot of this going on all over the United States, and then as well as throughout Europe. There were sanitariums throughout Switzerland and Germany. I've mentioned Arnold Ehret in the past. He was part of these. And many of them focused a lot on raw fruits and vegetables, which are considered living foods, meaning that the enzymes are not yet destroyed in the food, and it makes them easier to digest. The living foods have more vibrance. They have more accessible nutrition for the body. Now, if any of you have ever sampled with raw foods, some people start eating them and they're immediately like, oh no, I can't digest all this. But if you've not been used to eating like that, it's difficult on the system at first. But just speaking from experience, the more and more you transition into raw fruits and vegetables, the lighter you feel, the more energized you feel, and there really is a difference in your health. Have you ever looked at somebody who's a raw foodist, like has been eating raw food for 15, 20 years? I mean, I've looked at these people, I'm like, wow, they just look completely healthy in the face. Coloring's amazing. A lot of people trash the raw food diet. They want to say that it's bad digestively. You know, I don't really like to trash any diet specifically, but just test out things for yourself. You know, you're trying anything on for yourself and see how you feel with it. For some people it works, some people it doesn't. But it's very clear in all of these sanitariums across the world that the common thread here are just a few things: fruits and vegetables, whether they're raw or not, sunlight, fresh air, hydrotherapy, meaning water cleansing, even colon hydrotherapy, and moderate exercise, getting out in nature, getting in touch with the natural world around us. Back to looking at this photograph of this old sanitarium in Manitou, it made me think about how far we've come from this type of health. As I'm walking down the street in Manitou, it's got these really cute little shops. It's kind of an old, hippie vibe. There's a lot of eclectic stores, artist town, things like this. And yet the food that's there is saltwater taffy, fudge, the standard tourist things that we see when we go places. And nowhere do you see fruit stands or vegetables or fresh juices or anything like that. Talk about a radical shift in the way that our culture functions, going from areas where there were sanitariums everywhere for healing to now we're buying packaged processed foods on the street and not even blinking an eye at it. It's a very interesting thing how far we've come from just the natural way of eating. How many of you, when you're on the run, you just throw like a bar in your purse or your bag or your pocket or in the car, because we're living in a world where we're go, 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 got to be here, got to be there. And food is the last thing on our minds. So we need something fast, right? That's why we have fast food everywhere. In reality, it's not what we thrive on, but it works for a while until it doesn't. At some point, everybody's body starts screaming. And then maybe you say, I really need to do something here. This isn't working anymore. My health is declining. I don't feel good. And then you can get back to basics, which is what I'm trying to aim at today. You could say that this type of health of the past, which was more of a natural approach, a holistic approach, using herbs and just the elements of nature, was the norm. It was considered the norm. Like, it didn't seem like people thought it was strange back then to just use what's in nature to help your body get well. But today, if you were to ask somebody this question, or you just pose a simple solution to somebody who might be having health trouble, like, hey, maybe you should just try to eliminate all those processed foods out of your diet and just eat some real basic, simple foods for a few days and see how you feel, like some fruits and vegetables. Their eyes will look at you like, you really think that's going to do anything? Why don't you just sample it and see? Maybe you will notice a difference. Sometimes you might feel actually worse because your body is so addicted to eating these processed, overcooked, very oily foods that it's shocking to the system. So baby steps is important, but if you just try a couple days, you'll get a good taste of it. Like, oh, wow, this is shocking to my system. From our perspective now, in the year 2025, we look back at like 1900 or 1850 and say, wow, maybe those really simple health and wellness tips work. They were really cutting edge back then. From our perspective today, we could see it like that. Like, wow, they were really revolutionizing health. But let's now go back even further than that and talk about the ancient Greeks for just a second. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but 300 to 400 years BC, all the famous philosophers, Socrates, Hippocrates, Plato, they're all talking about eating fresh fruits and vegetables for health. Hippocrates' famous line is, "Let food be thy medicine." And there's a whole institute today, started by Ann Wigmore in the 1950s, the Hippocrates Institute. It's down in West Palm Beach, Florida, where the whole concept is getting back to health using raw fruits and vegetables, using food as medicine. The ancient Greeks also knew exercise was beneficial, that sunlight was beneficial. They were advocating for a moderate diet of natural elements, using the sunlight, right, for the body and mind to stay in balance or have this unity between the two of them. And by doing these, just implementing these simple things, you're creating a preventative environment, meaning you're going to prevent the onset of deterioration of the body or chronic illness, as we see so much of today. So it's kind of funny, right? Here we are in this modern day era, and everybody wants to think we're on the cutting edge of everything new and modern and technology, and yet our health is failing. We have the worst health ever. But back in the day, millennia ago, they seem to know already that just a very moderate diet with some fruits and vegetables, get some exercise, breathe some fresh air, and we're good to go, people. It sounds too good to be true to most of us. Like, really? That's it? It's that simple? Well, what if it was? Wouldn't that be amazing? Like, instead of dissing it and saying, well, that isn't possible. Hello, look at it. It's that simple. You mean it's not going to be that complicated where I'm not going to have to worry about every little detail that I'm doing in my body or all the supplements and all these things I need to take and measure, and I need to measure each calorie? Or, oh my gosh, no, it could be that simple. Doesn't that sound awesome? To me, it sounds liberating. Like, yes, let's get on that path. It won't cost as much either. And there's where everything changed, right? The cost, the money involved, the power behind the health industry. If you think about it, what is the number one thing that we all are concerned about and need in order to function in the world? Our health. So all 8 billion people or so, whatever number it is, we all have that same underlying issue of health. So why did all of a sudden, going from the ancient Greeks all the way up to the mid 1800s to the early 1900s, did everybody seem to think that natural health and healing modalities were okay, that they were actually beneficial? It wasn't nonsense. It wasn't witchcraft. It wasn't anything weird. It was just simply what they did to heal, to get well. What happened? Well, in 1910, the Flexner report came out. I have talked about this briefly before, but the Flexner report in 1910, written by a man named Abraham Flexner, supported by Rockefeller, started criticizing alternative schools, alternative health schools, alternative medical schools, and favored scientific drug-based medicine or petroleum-based medicine that Rockefeller was part of. So this report was heavily influenced by the American Medical Association to completely transform medicine from where it had always been. Now, some say the Flexner report created higher standards in medicine, better scientific research and all those things, which could be a plus, right? But what it also did was cut out all of the wisdom of natural health that had always been practiced and labeled it quackery. So what do you think happened to all these sanitariums that were spread throughout the entire world after the Flexner report came out and modern day allopathic medicine slowly became what it is today, which is basically a monopoly on pharmaceutical medication? Probably putting lots and lots and lots of money into the hand of Rockefeller and many other people involved at the time. Monopolies are good for people in power, right? Because everyone's forced into that system. And if everyone is concerned about their health, you're talking about benefiting from each person on the planet. That's a good business model if you're a business person. But is it beneficial to people's health to only have one option? The truth is there's many options in health. And whatever option you choose, whatever is right for yourself, is your decision. The sad part about this whole thing is that they basically labeled something that had always been known to be true. The truth about health was silenced, told that it was a farce. There was no scientific evidence that any of this was true. Well, do you need scientific proof if you implement a few simple things that to somebody who's sick and they get well and they stay well? Do we need to have an expensive study to prove that when you can just see it and witness it yourself? Like if you're somebody who's struggling with something debilitating and you've tried everything in the medical world and then suddenly you decide to just go, I'm going to try some simple things and just do it. And all of a sudden you start feeling better. You start feeling better. You notice your energy's coming back. Maybe your symptoms are going away. Is your first thought to say, I'm going to go research this a little bit more? Or is it, I'm going to keep doing this because I'm feeling better? It's almost as if we've been cut off from our own spiritual intuition and wisdom, and our power is going over to the hands of somebody else or another system telling us what's right or wrong. And what my aim is today is to get you to get in touch with what's right for you. I'm not preaching one way or another what you should do with your health, but it's interesting when you go back in history and look at what happened to the natural health world. The knowledge that was already there from the ancient Greeks and probably before that, how it suddenly flipped upside down. And while it's always been there, sort of hidden under all of the media coverage and the silencing of people who are trying to help people get well through holistic means, it's starting to get louder, isn't it now? You're starting to see more and more people talk about natural healing, about getting back to what we've always known. For any of you interested, if you want to dive into the reason why all these health sanitariums slowly closed or what happened to them, they turned into modern day hospitals. Interesting, right? They bought them out over time and turned them into what we see today as modern day hospitals. Hospitals can be amazing. They can save your life, or they can also kill you. And wouldn't it be amazing today if we'd start seeing a shift back, transforming these hospitals back into a holistic perspective, keeping some of the things that really do work with modern day medicine and implementing all of the natural things that also help keep your health vital, like adding a sunroom at the top, adding a beautiful outdoor garden to wheel patients out to sit in the fresh air and the sunshine every single day, to open a window in the hospital so you can breathe fresh air while you're sleeping. A few years ago, my dad was in the hospital during the whole COVID thing. He got tossed on a ventilator. For any of you that watched your loved ones get thrown onto ventilators, my dad was in the middle of the night. No one was there. to help him. They wouldn't allow any of us to be there. And he had a dip in his oxygen and he got very scared. And what happens when you get scared, right? Your oxygen dips lower. So they toss him on a ventilator. Later come to realize he didn't really need to be on it. Now you're unconscious and you have no idea if your loved one is coming off or not, right? So many people did not make it through the ventilator. But as I was walking through the ICU during this time, I would come into my dad's room and I'd made sure there was floor to ceiling windows, thank God. I would open the blinds and make sure that sunlight was coming in that room, that there was beautiful energy in the space. I would even go in and do energy work on my dad while he was on the ventilator. And he was only on it for a few days and luckily came out of it. As I left his room one night, I was walking and saw a gentleman in a room next to him. And his wife was in there, and the whole energy looked very sad. But it was still light outside when I left, and she had the blinds just shut. It was a dark dungeon in there, and I wanted desperately to go in and just open everything up for her. I have no idea what kind of mental space she was in or what she was feeling in her heart, but I wanted to go in and just help move the energy in there to help him. Not that it would have made a difference, but at least the setting would have looked a little better even if he should pass. The changes that could happen in hospitals today could make huge differences in the experience of the patient and the family members involved. I hope this gives you just a little bit of very recent background on the way healing used to be and what happened and where we are today. But let's get into the heart of the show, is how to create your own health oasis. How can you bring back a sanitarium in your own house or your own space wherever you are? The very first thing to think about, no matter what you're dealing with in your life, if you're somebody who's really struggling with your health, or you want to make a shift in the way you're living and you want to adopt this permanently, I want you to think about getting into a mindset and a spiritual shift within yourself, that you recognize and realize and feel that you are more than a body. And this is the number one thing to begin with. You're more than a body. There are so many aspects of yourself while you're living in this world. There's the physical. You have your mental state, how your mind is operating. You have your emotional body. You have your energy body, right? The way that you receive information and emit frequency into this very vast field of awareness that we're living in. You have your spiritual connection, whatever that is for yourself, whether you have a religion or you just have a greater understanding and sense that there's more to this whole thing. Establish that for yourself. What are the different aspects of you that can help you create this health oasis? You want to address all these areas. There's a lot of people on the wellness wheel that want to talk about balance and making sure you balance them all out. That's not something I ever think about. I just think about it as a whole. And maybe one day you're working on one thing. Maybe right now it's a very physical thing I'm trying to change. So I'm really honing in on the physical body. And then later I'm implementing some other things in my life. You can't always just sit and check every box every second. So ebb and flow with it. See what works for you. You're kind of teeter-tottering or riding the waves. You do not have to sit and say, well, 33.3% needs to be here and 33.3% needs to be here. You know what I'm getting at. As you embrace this holistic health approach and create your own personal sanctuary, you want to get into the frame of mind that healing and vibrance is possible. This is so important to have the mindset and have some visualization of seeing yourself healthy and well and having extraordinary vitality. So picture it. I want you to take a minute if you're not experiencing optimal health right now, and just take a moment and close your eyes and imagine what vitality looks like to you. It's not about what I think it looks like or what everybody else thinks it looks like. It's about, what do you think it looks like? And then weave it into different experiences that you have in your day-to-day life. What does vital health look like as you get up in the morning to you? What does having a lot of energy mean to you as you experience your day or your work day or your interactions with your family and friends? What does it look like when you're traveling? What does it look like when you want to create something in your life, something new? a project you're working on? What are the elements involved as you go through that to make yourself feel energized? Imagine it. Create a picture in your mind. Don't worry about like the tiny little details. Just see it. Visualize that you're happy. You're joyous. You're carving out your own little personal adventure, whether it's a calming one, an exciting one. It doesn't matter. What is it that you see? And then keep this image with you all the time as you start to create your own healthy environment. Keep the image there. If it helps, find some pictures of things that make you happy. Find something that excites you. Like, what is the symbol of health to you? What would that look like to you? Is it walking along a sunny path? Is it running along a trail, smiling? Is it being with your friends and family, laughing at an outdoor dinner? What is it? And then put a picture up near you. Put it in your office. Put it in your space that you frequent. And remember that image of what health and wellness feels like to you. And as you keep thinking about this, you start implementing all these other things into your life. You start creating it for yourself. So the first thing to think about if we're talking about your physical health is your diet. Looking at the diet, really get real, write out what you're eating every day if it helps, or thinking about where do I reach for those really unhealthy, crunchy snacks, or where could I eat better? Do I want to completely eliminate everything and just go cold turkey, or do I want to do more of a transition? It really depends on the state of your health right now. Could you just simply implement some more fresh fruits and vegetables into your diet every day and see how you feel? There's many ways to reach vital health. You can start by thinking, man, do I eat a lot of sugar, like refined sugar? Am I reaching for the cookies and the candy, the sodas, and everything has to be uber sweet? Maybe I should just start there and eliminate that. Just eliminate it and see what happens. I've known people who've been hundreds of pounds overweight that have dropped 100 pounds. I just talked to somebody yesterday who said she dropped 120 pounds in a year. And she just started eliminating the sugar, the refined foods. She added some vitamins and did some other things. She stopped drinking alcohol. And 120 pounds have left her. Her health is returning. It's so amazing what's possible, that the body can just go from these extreme states. Isn't it wild? So always thinking about putting fresh food, natural food, foods without additives, excess oils, extra oil, things you can't pronounce on the ingredient label. Just get really simple with it. Like if I don't know what it is on the label, I'm not going to eat it. If there's too many chemicals on there, it's not going in my grocery cart. I want food that I know what it is. I know where it came from. Did it come from the ground? If you eat animal products, is it an animal? What is it? And do keep in mind, not every plant food is good for you and not every animal product is good for you. You have to do this on your own, but the deeper and deeper you go with health and the more you practice it and implement it into your life, you'll realize you actually don't need as much as you think to thrive and feel full of energy. The other thing that is, in my opinion, and I've talked about this before, that is so vital is the sun. The sunlight is incredibly important for your health. Now, there's so much out there telling you, don't go in the sun. It's going to kill you. You're going to die tomorrow. Lather up with all the sunscreen. But there is a lot of evidence suggesting that's not true. And you just have to look back at the sanitariums. They were literally laying out on sun decks getting sun to help heal from tuberculosis, to help heal from all kinds of disease. The biggest thing the sun is doing, if you allow yourself to get in it without any protection against it, take your hat off, take your sunglasses off, and get into the sun for a little bit. You don't want to fry yourself, but there's a benefit to getting into the sunshine first thing in the morning. The early morning sun provides full spectrum light, and it's rich in natural wavelengths, including blue light. Apparently, blue light plays a critical role in regulating your body's circadian rhythm. And it's this blue light that helps regulate your wake-sleep cycle. So if you're in the morning and you like to drink coffee or tea, or you like to just have a few moments to yourself, and if you don't already do this, maybe it's time to implement it. Just create a little extra time before you have to go to work or whatever you're doing that day and get 15 minutes out on your porch or 15 minutes outside, drink your coffee or go for a walk and allow that early morning full spectrum light to come in without a hat, without sunglasses, so that you can receive that blue light that's going to help you regulate your wake sleep cycle. How many of you have trouble sleeping? How many of you can't fall asleep? Or once you're asleep, you wake up? Or once you get up in the morning, you're exhausted? This is a huge thing. And I think one of the reasons people can't sleep today is because no one's in the sun. Everyone's sitting in a box with a cover over it, right? No access to sun. And then when you go outside, you put what? Sunglasses on. You put a hat on. So there's no direct light exposure to our body. And then the other thing about full spectrum light, right, is getting that UV rays. Getting moderate UV rays is important. As we know, it's really good for vitamin D, but it also does other things. The sun is not just providing vitamin D. There's many other things happening chemically in our system that is beneficial to us. It can enhance your moods, help your mental health. How many of you are moody or struggle that you're like, oh, I feel so depressed? Maybe it's a lack of sunlight. You can think about that. It can also help improve skin issues, ironically, right? We're told get out of the sun because it's terrible for your skin. But there is some evidence suggesting that it can help eczema, vitiligo, acne, all these different things that we see happening on our skin, that just getting a little bit of UV light can help that. In fact, I did a show not that long ago and did some research on where they used to actually have skin cancer patients get into the sun to help with the skin cancer. Who knew? And it's also known to help with your cardiovascular, it has metabolic benefits, helps with your hormone system, maybe improves your blood pressure. Lots of things are possible if you just get a little bit of sunlight. So any of you that struggle with getting adequate sun, see if you can make it a priority in your life, whether it's getting up a little earlier to get that early morning sun, or if you can get out on a lunch break or even just 10, 15 minutes at any given point during the day, or at least on the weekend, get into the sun. Find some way to get yourself outside. Are you on the phone with a call? Like, can you just get outside and walk around as you're talking? I mean, there are ways for you to get outside and not only get that sunlight, then one of the next things to think about is the fresh air. So as you're thinking about your own health oasis, maybe you've created an indoor and an outdoor space. If you think about it, if you have a spot outside, a little patio, a deck, whatever it is, a balcony maybe, how can you make that space feel serene, calm, energized, whatever energy you're looking for? How can you make that your sanctuary so that when you go out and get your morning sunlight or you go out and sit there later in the day, it's going to also make you what? Feel good. It's going to activate that image that you're holding in your mind of what you want your health to feel like. Recently, I just went out and sort of ignited a new vibe on my deck because it had been lacking this summer. I had gifted my husband several years ago like a blow up hot tub that they're kind of cheap, but he loves to soak in hot water. It helps him sleep. So I bought him this thing. And after a few years, the whole thing is dead. It doesn't work. The filter is not filtering the water anymore. And it's like you're getting into a bacteria infested mess. So I said, let's get rid of this. Let's just get it out of here. So I cleared it out. And then I started to create a little oasis. I just cleaned it all off. I went out and bought some very end of the season flowers that are like half off and added some vibrant looking flowers, some new pillows to the seating, a little cheap little rug. And I'm looking for a little water feature to put out there so that it just sounds like I'm sitting next to a river. I don't have a river next to me. You probably don't either. How can you create these natural elements in your own space so that you're creating sort of this paradise for yourself? You're creating that sanctuary of healing. You could call this little space your healing nook. Give it a name so that it's fun. You want to be there. It's like you think about it all the time. If you make a space and you don't like it, try to figure out other elements that you could include that you want to be in it. This is a fun project. I always love creating a space and making it feel the way you want so it's attractive. And not only is it inviting for you, it might be inviting for other people that you're living with. Unless, of course, you're just creating a certain space just for you. And by all means, you do that too. So the other thing to think about is water, getting fresh water, whether it's filtered water or spring water. I read a really great book years ago that was fascinating. It was talking about really the only beneficial water to drink is water that's been in the sunlight in a stream. I thought, wow, that makes sense. That we want that sun. Not only do we want it on our food that we're eating, not only do we want it on our skin and on our bodies, but we also want it on our water. So if you have access to a fresh spring, awesome. Otherwise, you could probably find fresh spring water near you. You could buy it. I don't know anything about this, but is there a benefit to putting some water in the sunshine? Maybe, having water out in the sun might be beneficial, but just making sure that the water you're drinking is pure, is fresh. If you have access, like I did go down and get the fresh mineral water that's free. Maybe there's areas around you that have fresh spring water, do a little research. And if you don't have access to any of that, just do the best that you can. Another thing I always think helps is whatever you're drinking, whatever you're eating, whatever you're doing, that there's intention with it. There's that spiritual connection that I'm enjoying what I'm putting into my mouth. I'm enjoying my food. I'm enjoying the water. The water is nourishing me. You don't have a lot of money and you can't buy the top of the line water filtration system. That's okay. I think your own connection to spirit and your own awareness and energy field can also shift what you're putting into your body. I already mentioned fresh air, but you want to make sure you get out of that box that you're living in and get some fresh air in your life. It's so, so critical. I don't think many people realize the toxic air that we're breathing simply by breathing in circulated air in your home. If you are living with a lot of people, there's a lot of CO2 going back into that system and it's just constantly coming back in. So getting fresh air, walking into nature if you can, smelling the trees, the pine needles, wherever you are, whatever your environment looks like. Maybe you're near the water, you're smelling the ocean. Not only is it good for you, but you just feel better when you're in those environments. So if you have trouble getting to them regularly, try to make it a weekend thing. Find a spot. Maybe if you're in a city, get to a park. There's always parks in metropolitan areas. And you also want to be getting plenty of movement in your life, whether you like rigorous exercise or you're more casual with it. Maybe you like stretching or yoga or just walking. It doesn't matter as long as you're still moving your body. Removing the stagnant energy within the system when we don't move the body is really important. And then lastly, as you're creating your own oasis, think about rest. Not only creating a place that you can just rest, and I don't mean sleep, I mean a place in your house or your home that's kind of a cozy corner maybe. You put some cozy blankets, or you get the books that you love, or maybe you like to write, or maybe you like to watch certain shows, whatever makes you feel relaxed. See if you can create this in your space and make it inviting. Make whatever you're doing in your life feel good so that you're creating sort of a healing nest for yourself. And if you find that when you're in your space, you're not liking something, then what can you do to rework it? What can you do to eliminate what's not working and move it out of there? Sometimes all it takes is just to get the stuff out of your way. You don't even have to get anything new. It's just get it out of there or rework it. And you feel different on different days. Sometimes you want to look at something different. And then the other thing to think about is maybe it has nothing to do with what's going on in my physical space. Maybe it's all about what's going on within me. And then learning to have a space for yourself to sit down and look at all those areas that I mentioned earlier of your life. I'm not okay in my emotions right now. I'm out of control. And then you can start working on that. I'm feeling that my relationship over here is really in dire need of attention, or my physical health is drained here. You can just create this space that you go to sit and be and see where it is that's crying for the most attention and nurture that. You address it. Many times, the one area that's crying the most is the one that we're ignoring, right? Oh, I'll just keep pushing that off because I don't want to go there yet. But really, that's the one that we need to address. And maybe it's not always the physical. Maybe it's that issue you've got with your parents, or the issue you've got at work, or, maybe you have an addiction you're dealing with and you just don't want to stop. Whatever it is for yourself, whatever's screaming the loudest, instead of turning away, how can you look at it, address it, and start to work with it? Start working with it. So I hope all of this information can help you in your own life create your own beautiful holistic space where you feel nurtured, inspired, and revitalized. Because feeling well in your life can turn everything around. It can make you live the life that you really want to live. And even if your health is still suffering, implementing these other things will actually make you feel better, even if that health issue isn't gone. It'll help you feel more connected to the natural world. It'll bring you a sense of peace as you're going through the struggles that will inevitably happen in this world. I will link some of the information on the sanitariums for you in the show notes if you're interested in diving a little bit deeper, as well as the Flexner report. And I hope all of you feel inspired to go create your own health oasis at home. That's it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. If it resonated, please share, follow, and drop a review with your takeaways. It really means a lot. Visit my website at livelikeeden.com to subscribe for weekly reminders and blogs, or sign up for a free 30-minute consult to explore one-on-one guidance sessions if you're really struggling in Awakening's darkness. Take my Awakening quiz to get a personal podcast playlist that meets you exactly where you're at. See you next week for another deep dive.